You know, something strange in the air, something wet. And it was on my, what's it called? Oh, I should have remembered that, but my memory is anyway, thank you all for coming. And thank you all on Zoom and whatever. We have the pleasure of two gentlemen today. Mr. Brian over here, Brian Mark, and we'll start with him. And we started out talking before that I asked him where he was from, and he said San Francisco. And I said, oh. So we compared all the places we'd been and where we went to school and all that before, but now you can hear it. So let's start with San Francisco and telling about where you came from.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was born and raised in San Francisco.
You have to talk louder and have it close.
Okay. I was born and raised in San Francisco. Basically, well, yeah, raised there. I basically moved down here when I went to San Jose State. I kind of stayed down here because when I was in high school, I ran track and cross country. And senior year, the fog was just bothering my sinuses too much. And so I was kind of glad to get out of the fog, to come down here.
That's not a nice thing to say about San Francisco.
Well,
I mean, it never was foggy when I was there.
oh.
We'll start.
You ever been there in the summertime?
Yeah. Yes, we used to come down here to get away from it. Yeah. Well, tell about your childhood and anything exciting about that and your family. And you have a twin brother.
Yeah. My only sibling. I have a twin brother. He still lives in San Francisco, and actually still lives in the house we grew up in. We started out, I don't know if for you that are familiar with San Francisco, we originally, my parents, my brother, we lived in the Ingleside district. And then there was a new development being built on the western slopes of Twin Peaks called Midtown Terrace. And so my father was a bus driver for the San Francisco Municipal Railway. And they thought, well, yeah, living on Twin Peaks probably be kind of nice. They weren't sure whether they can afford the home. It was $17,000 for brand new home, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 17,000. So my brother's still living there.
It's probably worth 17 million now.
No, it's we did check recently. It is about $1.3 million. It was up to about 1.5, and then with the prices of real estate dropping, it's down to about 1.3. Yeah, quite a change. But so I attended school up in San Francisco. I went through the Catholic school system, St. Brendan's grade school, then Reardon High School, and in high school ran track and cross country, and enjoyed that. It was a lot of hard work, but that's what I did.
Did you have a job as a child?
Yeah, first job was actually delivering newspapers during the summertime. I was substitute for a friend. It was the San Francisco Progress, which is long gone. But it was mainly a paper that had a lot of advertisements. It was mainly for shoppers. Didn't have a whole lot of news in it. So it was a thinner paper. It was not like the San Francisco Chronicle or the San Francisco Examiner. It was smaller, but so that was actually my first paid job there. Yeah.
I know that they used to stand on the corner with the Chronicle and the Examiner yelling, buy a paper
Yeah.
and then, yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, that was still, yeah, where the newsboys, what they called them. Yeah, would be out there trying to, yeah, get you to buy a paper. Yeah.
Of course, you know, we did not live there at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. That what? He was a child when I was an adult there.
Mhm,
Anyway, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
What was your interest in college?
Accounting. Actually, when I was in high school, I took some vocational aptitude tests, and they basically it's oriented towards numbers. So high school math teacher was one thing came up, but accounting also came up a number of times, and so that's why I decided to major in. San Jose State had, and still does, as I understand it, has one of the best business schools in the Western United States for undergraduate business. So getting out of San Francisco, going to a place that's still fairly close, and then the fact that it had a really good business school was probably the main reason I decided to choose to go to San Jose State, which.
And tell us where you worked as an accountant.
Okay. Well, I did an internship with the Department of the Navy at the Naval Air Station Alameda back when I was in college. And yeah, NAS Alameda is, well, they closed that down in 1992, I think it was. And I was there a lot, many years before that. After school, I did work in the electronics industry for one company for a few years as an accountant. I then went to work for O'Connor Hospital as an accountant for about a year or so. Well, my real interest was in local government. I think partly because my father was an employee of the city and county of San Francisco. So really wanted to work for the local government, and it was in 1984, the county of Santa Clara was starting to rehire people. Those of you who have been in California for quite some time probably remember Proposition 13 back in 1978. And when that passed, that cut a lot, or local governments just basically freeze their hiring because they didn't know really how to react to it, because there's a big loss of property tax revenue for them. But then they started adjusting to it, and well, the state bailed them out, part of the reason. And in 1984, the county was looking for accountants. So I applied and I was hired. I was hired by the assessor, and I was hired as an auditor appraiser. So my job, as some of you may know, if you've had business here in California, there's a personal property tax. Most states have personal property tax, though a number of them have exempted it. But local businesses here have to declare the cost of their business equipment, fixtures, and that kind of thing to the assessor. The assessor values that, and then the tax collector sends them a bill. Well, my job was to audit their records, to verify that they're reporting correctly, deal with any appraisal issues, because valuing equipment is very difficult. It's a lot harder than real estate, actually. So that was my job. I did that for 15 years. And then I transferred to internal audit within the county. And I did that for 19 years. And then I retired. And
What did you do on the side, like for fun, or what about some exercises?
Well, as I mentioned about the side, I did serve in the California Air National Guard for
That wasn't for fun, sounds like.
No, well, there was, we had some good times there, but there was other times, it was hard. I was a truck mechanic there, which I learned a lot. learned a lot about motor vehicles. I wouldn't want to try to work on them today because there's so much computerized and such that it's a lot different. But as far as actually, you mentioned about exercise, yeah, I still exercise. I actually do a lot of, because I have osteoporosis, I do a lot of exercises that are osteoporosis focused, things to help building bone strength and muscle strength and balance and posture, which I
Anybody here have osteoporosis? Maybe you could you could start a group maybe here.
Yeah. I use videos, online videos, and I found them very helpful. And that's my main source of exercise now.
What about for fun or travel or anything?
Travel, I actually, when I was with the assessor, we got to travel around the United States in late September, early October. We always go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so around the country. And that was fun. I really enjoyed that. Even though we had to work, but there was still plenty of time to see a lot of sightseeing and kind of would like to go back to see some of those places, but you know, times have changed. And I'm older too. Yeah.
How do you use your accountant work here? You got busy immediately, I think, when you moved in, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
How long have you been here?
Since May. That's right. Yeah, it was May 11th. Yeah. So I participate on the Residence Council. I'm also with the auxiliary, also with CERT. Thank you. Yeah, the foundation. I think that's it.
That's 4 things right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then notions and needs.
Well, that's the auxiliary,
Oh,
or
okay.
one of the functions of auxiliary is the notions and needs. Yeah.
Life doesn't sound very boring.
There's always something to do.
No, I think that's amazing. You got involved so fast in so many things. What else can I ask you? Well, how did you find out about this place?
Okay, yeah, I'm young. I'm the youngest one here. But I started looking at continued care retirement communities literally about 9 years ago. So I lived in Santa Clara for a little over 40 years in a condominium, but it's on the 2nd floor and was accessible only by stairs. And I think you all know that that's not a good thing. You know, when you get older, and in fact, even younger, one of my neighbors was about 40 years old. He was an electrician, but he developed a neuropathy and he could not go up and down those stairs. It was very difficult for him. So it was just not a good situation for somebody getting older. And I've seen a number of other people there who lived there a long time who were struggling with the stairs. So that's why I started looking. I looked here, I looked in Southern California, looked at some places out of state. But I decided to stay local, mainly because of my church family in Sunnyvale. We have pretty solid preaching there, and moving away, finding another church, that nowadays particularly, we're finding that can be difficult, you know, depending on your theology. But that was the main reason. Also, I have a condition medical condition that a lot of cardiologists don't want to deal with, but Stanford does. So it's really great having Stanford here, because they, as far as I can tell, for anything medical, they're not afraid of taking on any challenge. They do a lot of different things there. And so that was another reason. Yeah, my cardiologist did not want me to move out to the Central Valley. He didn't want me to move to Santa Barbara. He said, if you go to LA, go to Cedars-Sinai if you can. You know, so he maybe has some bias because he's Stanford. You know, but so that was another reason, was because of the condition I have. I chose terraces. Couple of reasons. One, I knew two ladies who lived here. They were both sisters, and they were members of our church. They died within a couple of years of each other. Their last name were Keys, Marge and Helen Keys. But I visited them in the skilled nursing facility at different times, and I was quite impressed with our skilled nursing that we have here. Because I remember visiting my father so many times in different skilled nursing facilities in San Francisco, and visiting other friends who are in skilled nursing facilities around here. And I don't think anything compared to what I saw here. This was really good. I mean, it's very clean. Now I haven't visited anybody there for a number of years. I don't know, but I was sure impressed with what I saw.
I'm surprised you're not working over there too.
Healthcare is not, no one can do. No, but so I did look at, I did compare the local ones, you know, Saratoga, Channing, what are the other ones? Terraces of Los Altos. But this seemed to be the best fit, I thought. And so that's why I chose.
And you're not disappointed, I'm assuming?
No,
You
no.
can't say it anyway, so if you are.
No, I'm quite surprised that my adjustment went quite well. I thought, you know, as they say, particularly for seniors, you live in a particular place for a long time, it gets harder to move out. It's harder, you know, mentally. And so it was a concern I had, but no, the adjustment went quite well. I feel quite comfortable here.
Okay, well.
Does he have a family?
Well, I wish. No, I don't. I just have a brother, and he likewise is not married either. But no,
you might meet someone here.
I'm not going to answer
No,
that.
we're too old for you.
Yeah.
John?
You think you might ever convince your twin brother to move here?
When I was looking at some of these communities, I had him in mind, you know, thinking, would he want to? Well, it's a couple of things. One is a matter of finances and such. But he is looking, because he realizes in the home that he lives in, that's not good for seniors either. You know, typical San Francisco, hills, stairs, you know, that's the condition, that's where he lives. And so he does have some friends over in Concord that live in a independent living community there. So he's looking at that right now as being a possibility. But yeah, he realizes, you know, he can't stay where he's at. It's
Do you see much of him? Does he come visit here?
he hasn't been here yet, but he has been down here to Santa Clara, and we communicate regularly, you know, on phone and email. Yeah.
Okay.
Hobbies. Does he have a hobby?
If I have time.
He doesn't have time, my gosh.
No, I do. I do like reading various different things. Reading is very interesting. Different topics. I also like attending our Thursday afternoon current issues that we have here. That can be quite interesting.
I
Yeah.
think they're sitting right back there.
Hello. Yeah, yeah. So I enjoy that. That's I mean, it can be fun at times. It can be okay. But yeah, as far as social activities here, that's probably my main thing. Yeah, main thing I like doing.
But I think no hobbies before in your childhood or anything.
Well, childhood. Oh yeah, coin collecting, stamps. My father was a stamp collector, and so I remember that. You know.
Okay, well,
Interested in your online exercise thing that you're doing for, I'm osteopenic.
Okay.
I don't have osteoporosis yet, but I'm getting closer and closer.
Yes.
And do you have an exercise bike or just do weight things or videos?
Well, these videos, it's called Save. It's Save Institute, Save Trainer, and the Save Trainers, they have the largest library of osteoporosis focused exercise videos that I've seen anywhere else. So they have different levels. The exercises have different focuses, like some deal with balance, some deal with upper body strength or total body strength or posture. The only equipment that I use are dumbbells. But you know, with osteoporosis, there's a lot of things you can do without dumbbells. In fact, I even say that, that there's there are a lot of weight bearing things you can do just with your own body that don't require any equipment. But yeah, I can talk to you about that. No, SAVE. Yeah, save. Okay, yeah. Glad
how
to.
many here would be interested in that? In us? Oh, a lot of us are, yeah. Okay, maybe you could, a one-time only thing. I mean, not.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have room for questions after 2. So maybe you could turn it over to Dale.
San Jose State.
Well,
Well,
let's okay.
Let's wait and say about it. I certainly enjoyed it. I mean, some of the classes were pretty hard, but overall, I really enjoyed the experience. I did live in the dorms for a little bit. Where dorms been demolished, the ones I lived in. But it got to, of course, not only the academic aspect, but certainly a great social experience as well. Still have contact with some people I went to school with. So overall, yeah, this was in the 1970s. So it was a very positive experience. Yeah.
What's your name?
Dale Fisk.
Oh, thank you, Dale Fisk. Okay, nobody knows him, do you? No, he's very quiet. He's a very quiet man and kind of hides out all the time. But he promised that he would talk a little today. Okay, shut up, Kate. And where did life start?
Life started in Colorado, a small town right on the edge of the mountains and on one side and the desert on the other side.
They can't hear you. Hold it closer.
Closer? Okay. Little town right on the edge of the Rocky Mountains. Mountains on one side and the great desert that goes all the way to the Sierras on the other side. So it was a great place to be a kid.
Tell about your parents, your father.
Okay. My mother was a high school dropout. I was born, she was 17. My dad was a coal miner. And this would have been in the late 30s. So that was really hard scrabble work at that point. We had a lovely family, though. I have two sisters, and we grew up surrounded by love and by books. And that combination was, I think, a big factor in my life, was that combination.
What was it like? Was it a farmhouse?
I was born in a farmhouse, but we moved to a town, lived in a small house, really. As you can imagine, the kind of a house that a 17-year-old mother and a coal miner father would be able to deal with. I was 8 when we finally got an indoor toilet, for instance. But more important than that, I think, was the bathtub. That up until that time, my dad would take his daily baths coming home from the coal mine in a wash bucket in the middle of the kitchen floor with hot water heated on the coal stove that was the kitchen stove at that point. So the addition of the bathroom and the a wringer washing machine. That was what really impressed my mom. That was a life changer for her. But it was a good life. It really was. I've said several times to myself and other people who've listened to it, I've really been a lucky guy. That things have worked. It's been a good life for me.
Your mother was 17. Where did your mother and father meet? How?
They met in
Hold
the
it
same
close.
small town
Close.
where I was raised. That was home, and it was home until the day they died. A brief respite. My dad developed black lung, and partway through high school, moved us all to Oregon, where he finished his working career as a worker in a plywood mill there. And it was from there that I first went into the Navy, and then after the Navy, on to Oregon State, where I did my electrical engineering degree.
Well, tell us some about what about high school? Have you said anything?
High school was split between my freshman year, still in Oregon, and then after that to the small town and along the coast of Oregon, where my freshman year was in Colorado, and then moved to Oregon for the rest of my senior year. And it was from Oregon that I went into the Navy and then finally returned back to this small town in Oregon.
But you graduated from high school, and
that was after high school was 3 years in the Navy, where I rapidly decided that I was not a very good military person. But once I returned to being a civilian, my next step was to Oregon State for an engineering degree at that point, was what I was after.
And when you were first started, the schools must have been very small where you grew up. And so then you went to big time.
Not real big time until I got to Oregon State.
Okay.
Up
The
until
high
that
school
time,
wasn't either, huh?
No, they were rather small schools.
So did you take part in sports or?
Intramural sports. I never played at the varsity level.
Okay.
One of my disappointments in life that I was never quite good enough as an athlete.
So what were you involved in high school? Any activities?
A lot of the social activities.
I believe that. Like what?
Oh, there were a number of school plays that I participated in, and the mixed chorus, interestingly enough, that was 50 years ago. I think I've lost that.
The what, the
expertise.
chorus you sang? What?
Yes, there was a mixed
Hold it
chorus.
close.
That I sang, and I was one of the bass players in the mixed chorus.
The bass players, an
The
instrument?
singer.
Oh, singer, okay.
What instrument?
What?
What instrument?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, anyway. Okay, what happened after college and what was your specialty?
Well, in Oregon State, you know, I collected two things I've said. One is the wife that was with me for 60 years. And the other was the electrical engineering degree. And the engineering degree was kind of an interesting experience when I graduated. I had two really good choices, I thought. One was, should I continue on to a career in electronic or a career in communications with Bell Labs in New Jersey, or should I continue on with computing with IBM in San Jose? Both of those were extremely attractive options at the time. Yeah. And the thing that finally ended up being the decider was when my wife's mother said, I don't want my daughter to move to the East Coast. That's too far away. That was ultimately the decider on that choice.
So you met your wife while you were in college?
I met my wife while we were in college.
And tell us how.
Well, there's a story in the Rag magazine that describes how we met. But the bottom line was that there was a dinner exchange between the house I was in and the women's dorm across the street. And she didn't want to go. Was finally convinced she had to. And because she had to, she ended up my date at that dinner time. And I came home from that dinner date convinced that I had just met the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And it almost worked.
And you're grateful forever to the friend who forced you into going.
She is still, well, she was Elaine's best friend, and she is, and she is still one of my best friends.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine you would be grateful. Okay, well, tell us about your son and your daughter, right?
I have a son and a daughter who also are twins, incidentally. My son lives halfway between here and Santa Cruz, down one of those little twisty, windy roads that they've got up there. And my daughter lives in Brooklyn. So I regularly get to go back and visit her and experience a totally different lifestyle there than what we have here. And hopefully you'll, I also enjoy writing, if you probably observed. So in the next issue of Rag, there's going to be a brief description of what life is like in Brooklyn. So that'll be good.
And you are a good writer. I think everybody enjoyed the pieces you wrote, you know.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But
Wait. Okay.
well, you asked why here.
No, but I want to hear about your
Oh,
son
okay.
first,
That's
so
it.
we can.
Okay, we mentioned, let me continue on with my son. You know, he has a job that I've never really understood. What he tells me is that he is a sales engineer for an internet security company. And I tried to decipher exactly what that means, and I'm not successful at it. No. My daughter, on the other hand, went to New York when she was accepted into graduate school at City University of New York. And her second day there, met a guy. And she's been in New York, been in Brooklyn ever since. So she's now an English professor at Queens College in Brooklyn.
So how often do you see her? Not much, I guess.
Actually, I see her rather frequently. She's been a big source of support for me in my old age. And I've gone back to visit her a couple times. In fact, I've got an invitation to spend Christmas back there this year, which I'll probably take. I'll probably take that.
Do you have any grandchildren yet?
No, I have no grandchildren. So just the four of us.
And you see your son?
I had lunch with my son today. We went over
Oh.
to the Super Duper for hamburgers.
I wish you'd brought him here for this.
Well, everybody would have enjoyed them, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's
They
too
have good
bad, yeah.
hamburgers.
Okay, what have we left out?
Well, Wilkes asked how I got here. And it's kind of a complicated answer, but let me start with my older sister, who is in a assisted living facility in Oregon that has assigned seating for lunches, dinners. And I looked at that and thought, no. So I used that as kind of a learning experience to say, what are the important things about life in a place like this? And one of the key things that I decided was I wanted friendliness. I wanted an administration that encouraged the ability to meet and be with other people. And I found that here. I found that same friendliness is true among the people here, as well as the administration. And I love that. I just think that it's just such a power.
You're so shy, you know. It makes it easier when people are friendly.
Well, I'm really grateful. I really am. It's exactly what I needed. Because there's a negative side to my life story, in that when my wife died a year ago, I was left rattling around in that great big house all by myself. And it was just not a healthy environment for me. So I knew I had to do something. And ultimately, the decision was the terraces.
Tell me again where your house was.
The house was in Willow Glen.
Okay.
If you're familiar with San Jose, not far from the Meridian Hillsdale Avenue intersection.
Okay, now questions.
Well, your wife was in the health center here too before.
That's correct. Yes, she was. She spent a couple months upstairs.
So you got to know.
You got to know the place from visiting her in the health center.
That's right.
You've mentioned little towns, but you haven't mentioned any names in Colorado and in Oregon. What little towns was it that you lived in?
In Colorado is a town called Paonia, named after a man who brought the first peonies over the Continental Divide, but he couldn't spell.
And what about Oregon?
And Coquille was the name of the small town in Paonia, or in Oregon.
He was afraid you'd ask how to spell it. Anybody-
There's a oyster dish, what are oysters, coquille, or something like that. It's a French word anyway.
Anyone else for questions of either Brian or Dale? You're very,
Doing any extra activities here? What are you involved in?
I've been slowly inching my way into some of the more formal involvements, but I have gotten involved in the RAG editions. You've seen that in the last one where I met my wife. What?
Residence Council.
The resident council, I've been nominated for that, yeah.
Anybody else who can speak for him, what he's involved in?
What?
Welcoming.
The welcoming committee.
Happy hour.
Happy. Which incidentally, we're missing out on.
Anybody else? Well,
Or hobbies, do you read or run or sail?
no, he answered that. He said that he. Yeah, oh yeah, thank you for that. He has pictures. And can you just briefly tell us what's in the picture so they won't
Okay.
hold the mic close?
Well, when
Hold the mic
When Kate
close.
said she wanted to have me talk, I said, well, why don't you come to my apartment? And maybe something in my apartment will give you a hint of what we should be talking about today. And she looked at the picture wall that I had created and
He-
said, I want that.
He couldn't bring the wall, so he had to settle for a poster.
So here it is, a 2-foot by 3-foot poster wall with my life on it.
And he took it off the wall. I mean, he went to a lot of trouble. Yeah. So can you tell us who's in the picture so we'll know?
Okay.
Who's the sailor in the picture?
Well, there's a lot of people that are involved in family, going back to, in the very top left is a picture of my great grandmother at the homestead that they had up Minnesota Creek. Notice a creek. It's not a creek, it's a creek. No. But from there, it progresses down through my family and then through our family, looking at the activities that we've had over the years.
And which is a picture of your wife?
Probably the best picture of my wife is one that shows the two of us holding our two twins as newborn babies.
Where's your other sister?
My other sister has recently moved from Idaho to Eugene, Oregon also. So my two sisters now live in the same town. So hopefully over Thanksgiving, I'll have an opportunity to be with them in Oregon.
Any questions of Brian?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Leah. That was great. You'll be by his pictures. And Brian, would you be up here too? So if anybody's shy and didn't want to ask you questions.